The mining colony was a lonely place. The ground was gray, the air was heavy, and the machines never stopped making noise. People came here only to work. They came for money, not for joy. Among them was a human worker named Ryan. He was not rich, not special, but he had strong hands and a steady heart. He worked every day to keep the colony's machines running. One evening, as Ryan walked back from the repair yard, he saw something strange. Near the edge of the colony's walls stood a figure, small and thin. The figure moved slowly, almost like it was afraid to be seen. The lights above the gate shone down, and Ryan noticed it was not human. It was an alien girl, her skin pale like moonlight, her clothes torn and dirty. She looked around with wide, fearful eyes, as if expecting someone to hurt her. Her body was weak, and her steps were unsteady. She held her arms close to herself, shivering even though the air was not cold. Ryan stopped walking. He had seen many workers from different planets, but this one was different. She was not here to work. She looked like she had run away from something. The girl noticed him and froze. Her big dark eyes stared at him, and for a moment she looked ready to run. But she was too tired to move fast. Ryan raised his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. "Hey," he said gently. "It's all right. I won't hurt you." The girl did not reply. She only stepped back, her feet dragging weakly on the ground. Ryan could see the marks on her skin, scratches, small bruises, and a tiredness that went deeper than her body. She had suffered, that much was clear. Ryan looked around. The other workers were gone, and nobody else had noticed her. If they did, they might call the guards or chase her away. The colony was strict. Strangers without papers were not welcome. Ryan felt a heavy weight in his chest. He could turn away and pretend he had not seen her, but something in her eyes stopped him. "You look hungry," he said softly. He reached into the small pack he carried. Inside was a piece of bread and a water flask. He took them out and placed them on the ground a few steps away. Then he moved back. The girl watched him with suspicion. Her hands trembled, but her eyes never left the food. Hunger pulled at her. Slowly, she took a step forward, then another. Finally, she crouched and picked up the bread. She smelled it, then bit into it quickly, as if she feared someone would take it away. Ryan stayed silent, letting her eat. When she finished, she drank from the flask. The water ran down her lips, and for the first time, she let out a small sigh of relief. She looked at Ryan again, still cautious, but a little less afraid. "What's your name?" Ryan asked gently. The girl hesitated. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. After a pause, she whispered one word. "Alira." Her voice was soft, almost broken, but it was enough. Ryan nodded. "Alira. I'm Ryan." They stood in silence for a while. The machines hummed in the distance, and the sky above the colony was filled with the faint glow of stars. Ryan wondered what had happened to her. He wanted to ask, but he knew not to push too soon. Alira's eyes darted to the walls of the colony. She seemed ready to leave again, to vanish into the shadows. But her body was weak, and she stumbled as she tried to take a step. Ryan quickly moved forward, catching her before she fell. She gasped and struggled weakly, but he held her steady without force. "It's all right," he said again. "You're safe. No one will harm you here." Alira looked at him, breathing hard. Her eyes filled with doubt, but also with a tiny spark of something else, hope. She pulled away gently, standing on her own again. Ryan knew he could not leave her like this. If she wandered outside the colony walls, she would not survive long. The world beyond was harsh, and she was already broken from whatever cruelty she had faced. "Come with me," he said. "I'll find you a place to rest." Alira shook her head quickly, fear flashing across her face. She did not trust easily. But her legs trembled, and her body swayed. She was too tired to keep running. Finally, she gave the smallest nod, almost invisible. Ryan led her slowly toward his small quarters near the repair yard. As they walked, he noticed how she looked at every shadow, every sound, as if danger could appear at any moment. He wondered how much pain she had seen, how much cruelty had left her broken. When they reached his room, Ryan opened the door and stepped aside. Alira entered carefully, her eyes scanning every corner. She sat on the floor, curling her knees to her chest. Ryan gave her a blanket and placed it near her. "Rest," he said. "You'll be safe here." She did not answer, but she wrapped the blanket around herself. For the first time, her eyes closed, and her breathing slowed. Ryan watched her for a moment, then turned away. He knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere deep inside, he felt that his small act of kindness had already changed something not just for her, but for him as well. The next morning, Ryan woke to the familiar sound of machines humming outside his small room. The colony was always alive with noise, from the heavy drills to the transport carts moving across the rocky ground. He sat up slowly and then remembered he was not alone. On the other side of the room, curled up near the wall, was Alira. She was still asleep, the blanket wrapped tightly around her small frame. For the first time since he had seen her, her face looked calm. The tension that had gripped her features last night was gone, at least for a while. Ryan did not want to wake her, so he moved quietly, preparing a simple meal of bread and dried fruit. When he placed the food on the table, the smell stirred Alira from her sleep. She blinked, her dark eyes wide and unsure, as if waking into a world she did not trust. "You're safe," Ryan said softly. "It's morning. I made something for you." Alira sat up slowly. She did not rush to the food, but her eyes followed it. Her thin hands pulled the blanket closer around her shoulders. Ryan pushed the plate toward her and then stepped back, giving her space. She hesitated, then reached out. Her fingers trembled as she took a piece of bread. She ate carefully, chewing as if she expected it to be taken away. Ryan noticed, but he said nothing. Instead, he began checking his tools for the day's work. When she finally finished, Alira whispered, "Thank you." The words were quiet, but they carried weight. Ryan turned, surprised to hear her speak more than her name. He gave a small smile. "You're welcome." The day passed with Ryan working as usual in the repair yard. He fixed broken machines, replaced old parts, and tightened loose bolts. Alira stayed in his room, too nervous to go outside. Each time he returned, she looked at him with uncertain eyes, as if checking whether he would truly come back. That evening, when the colony lights dimmed, Ryan found her sitting near the window. She was watching the stars through the thick glass. Her face was quiet, but her eyes carried a deep sadness. "Do you miss home?" Ryan asked gently. Alira lowered her gaze. For a long time she did not answer. Then she whispered, "I don't have one." Ryan felt a heavy ache in his chest. He wanted to ask more, but he stopped himself. He could see the pain in her eyes, and he did not want to open wounds that had barely begun to heal. Instead, he changed the subject. He pulled out a small device from his work bag, a broken handheld scanner that no one had bothered to repair. He set it on the table and began working on it. Alira watched him. At first, she sat quietly, but her eyes followed every movement of his hands. After a while, she leaned closer. "What is it?" she asked softly. Ryan looked up, glad to see her curiosity awaken. "It's a scanner. It helps read mineral layers in the ground. This one is broken, but I think I can fix it." Alira tilted her head, studying the wires and circuits. "Can I see?" she asked carefully, as if afraid he might refuse. Ryan handed the tool to her. Her hands were hesitant, but she turned it gently, examining the small parts. For the first time, there was a spark of interest in her face. "You know about machines?" Ryan asked. Alira nodded faintly. "I used to work with them. Simple ones." But, her voice trailed off, and her expression darkened again. Ryan did not push. Instead, he showed her where the wires needed to connect. Slowly, patiently, he explained how the parts fit together. Alira listened closely. Her hands were shaky, but she tried to copy his movements. Together, they managed to repair the scanner. When the screen lit up with a faint glow, Alira's eyes widened. A small smile tugged at her lips. "You did it," Ryan said. She shook her head lightly. "We did it?" That moment stayed with Ryan. It was the first time he had seen her smile, even if only for a second. As the days passed, this silent bond grew stronger. Alira still spoke little, but she began to sit closer when Ryan worked. She helped hand him tools, watched carefully, and sometimes even asked small questions. Her fear did not vanish, but she no longer looked at him with only suspicion. One evening, as they worked on a broken light panel, Ryan noticed something. Alira was humming softly to herself, a quiet tune that sounded both strange and soothing. It was a sound of life, fragile but real. "You have a beautiful voice," Ryan said. Alira stopped at once, embarrassed. She lowered her head. "I forgot." "Forgot what?" Ryan asked. "That I could sing," she whispered. Ryan felt a lump in his throat. Whoever had hurt her had taken more than her freedom, they had taken her spirit. But here, in small ways, she was finding pieces of herself again. When the night grew late, Ryan offered her the blanket once more. This time, she accepted it with a small nod of trust. Before sleeping, she looked at him and whispered, "Why are you kind to me?" Ryan thought for a moment, then said simply, "Because everyone deserves kindness." Alira said nothing more. But when she lay down, her eyes were no longer filled only with fear. There was something else there now, something fragile yet growing. Hope. The colony was busy that week. New shipments of tools and supplies had arrived, and every worker had extra tasks. Ryan spent long hours in the repair yard, fixing broken drills and checking engines. Still, every evening, he returned to his small quarters, where Alira waited. She had grown a little stronger in those days. Her steps were less shaky, her face less pale. She still kept her distance from others, but with Ryan, she had begun to open her shell. She helped him clean his tools and sometimes even asked questions about the machines. The silence that once stood between them was slowly being replaced by soft words. One night, as they sat near the small table, Ryan noticed Alira staring at her hands. Her fingers traced old scars on her skin, marks that looked like thin lines burned into her arms. Her eyes were far away, lost in memories. "Does it hurt?" Ryan asked gently. Alira shook her head. "Not anymore." She paused, then added, "But I remember." Her voice was quiet, but Ryan could sense that she wanted to speak. He did not rush her. He only sat nearby, waiting. After a long silence, Alira began to tell him about her past. She came from a colony far away, one run by overseers who cared nothing for her people. They were forced into labor, mining dangerous minerals without rest. She had worked there since she was young, her small hands repairing broken machines and carrying heavy loads. "The overseers never saw us as people," Alira said, her voice trembling. "We were tools. If we slowed down, they shouted. If we made mistakes, they punished us. I learned to be silent. To keep my head low. To survive." Ryan's fists tightened on the table, but he said nothing. He let her speak, knowing she needed to release what she had carried for so long. I tried to run once, she continued. They caught me. After that, I stopped trying. But then, one night, there was a storm. The walls broke, and I escaped. I walked for days, hiding from patrols, until I found this colony. Her eyes glistened, but she held back tears. I thought maybe here it would be different. But when I saw the guards, I knew it would be the same. Everyone looks the same when they have power. That's why I was afraid of you too. I thought you would be like them. Ryan felt a heavy weight in his chest. He could not imagine the pain of living like that, of being treated less than human, less than alive. He wanted to tell her that she was safe now, but he knew words alone were not enough. She had to see it, feel it, believe it. You're not a tool, Ryan said firmly. Not here. Not with me. You're a person, Alira. You deserve more than what they gave you. Alira looked at him with wide eyes. She wanted to believe him, but disbelief still lingered. Why do you care? You don't know me. Ryan thought about it. He had no great answer, only truth. Because I know what it means to be alone. And I know what it means when someone decides to care. It changes everything. Alira studied him quietly. She did not answer, but her gaze softened. That night, after she wrapped herself in the blanket, Ryan lay awake, thinking. He had always believed life on the colony was hard but fair. Work, earn, survive. Yet meeting Alira had opened his eyes. He realized that cruelty was not just about hardship, it was about taking away hope. And Alira had lived without hope for too long. The next day, Ryan made a decision. During his shift, he found an old toolkit that nobody used anymore. When he returned to his quarters, he placed it on the table in front of Alira. What is this? She asked. A gift, Ryan said. Tools. Not the best, but they work. You said you used to repair machines. You can use these. Not because you have to, but because you want to. Alira hesitated, her hands hovering over the kit. Slowly, she opened it. Inside were pliers, small screwdrivers, and wire cutters. She touched them carefully, as if they might vanish. I don't, she looked at him uncertainly. I don't know if I remember how. Ryan smiled. Then we'll remember together. Over the next few days, they worked side by side. Ryan showed her simple repairs, and she began to recall her own skills. At first, her hands shook, but soon her movements grew steadier. When she managed to fix a broken panel on her own, she looked at Ryan with quiet pride. You see, he said. It's still in you. Alira lowered her gaze, but a faint smile touched her lips. It was not joy, not yet, but it was something that had been buried deep inside her. By the end of the week, the room felt different. It was no longer just Ryan's quarters. It had become a place where silence was filled with quiet conversations, where fear slowly gave way to trust. One evening, as the stars shone outside, Alira whispered, "Thank you, Ryan. For listening. For not turning away." Ryan looked at her and said simply, "You don't have to thank me. I'm glad you're here." Alira's eyes glistened again, but this time, there was no pain in them. There was something new, something fragile yet strong. It was the beginning of trust. Days turned into weeks, and life in the colony followed its usual rhythm. The drills roared in the mines, transports came and went, and workers moved through their endless shifts. Yet inside Ryan's small quarters, something unusual was happening. Alira was changing. She no longer sat quietly in the corner, only watching. She began to move around with more confidence. She cleaned the tools, repaired small devices, and even tried cooking simple meals when Ryan returned late. Each small act made her feel less like a shadow and more like a person again. One afternoon, Ryan brought home a broken mining drone. It was small, shaped like a metal beetle, with cracked joints and a dead power core. Most workers would have thrown it away, but Ryan thought it would be good practice for Alira. "Think you can fix this?" he asked, placing it on the table. Alira tilted her head, studying the drone. Her fingers moved across its panels, pressing gently as she examined the damage. "It is not beyond repair," she said quietly. Ryan chuckled. "That sounds confident." Alira's lips curved in the faintest smile. "Maybe a little." Together, they opened the drone. Ryan handed her the tools, and she began to work. At first, her movements were slow, but as the hours passed, her hands grew steadier. She remembered old techniques she had once used, skills buried under fear and silence. When the drone finally powered on, its small lights blinking, Alira's eyes widened. "It works," she whispered, as if she could hardly believe it. "You made it work," Ryan corrected. "That's the difference." For a moment, she sat frozen, then let out a quiet laugh. It was soft and uncertain, but it was laughter all the same. Ryan had never heard it before, and it filled the room with warmth. The next day, word spread in the repair yard. Workers had seen Ryan bringing parts home, and some whispered about the strange alien girl in his quarters. A few were curious, while others frowned, saying the colony did not need outsiders taking resources. When Ryan returned that evening, he noticed Alira sitting near the door, her shoulders tense. She had heard the whispers too. "They don't understand," she murmured. "They see me as trouble." Ryan placed a hand on the table and leaned forward. "Then let's show them they're wrong. You're not trouble. You're skilled. You're helpful. And if they give you a chance, they'll see it too." Alira looked uncertain, but his words planted a seed. That week, Ryan asked her to come with him to the repair yard. She resisted at first, but finally agreed. When they arrived, the other workers stared. Some muttered under their breath, but Ryan ignored them. He handed Alira a broken circuit board and asked her to fix it. Her hands shook, but she focused. Piece by piece, she repaired the board, until the lights blinked on again. The workers watched in surprise. They had not expected her to succeed. "She's good," one worker admitted quietly. Ryan smiled. "Told you." Though the whispers did not disappear, something shifted. People no longer looked at Alira with only suspicion. They saw skill, not weakness. They saw value. That evening, back in Ryan's quarters, Alira sat silently for a long time. Finally, she said, "When I was with the overseers, no one cared if I was good at something. It did not matter. But today, I felt different." "That's because here, you're not a tool," Ryan replied. "Here, your work shows who you are. That's the human difference. We don't measure people only by what they can produce. We see more than that." Alira lowered her gaze, thinking deeply. "You see me as more." "Yes," Ryan said simply. "I see you." The words touched her more than she expected. For so long, she had been invisible, seen only as labor, never as a person. Now, for the first time, she felt recognized. The days that followed built on that moment. Alira began spending more time outside Ryan's room. She walked slowly through the colony, always close to him, but no longer hiding. She even spoke to some workers, answering simple questions about repairs. Her voice was still quiet, but each word carried more strength. One night, as they watched the stars through the window, Alira whispered, "I thought kindness was weakness. That is what they told us. But now I see it is strength. You choose to be kind, even when you don't have to." Ryan looked at her. "That's the truth. Anyone can be cruel. But choosing kindness, that changes lives. Alira's eyes glistened as she turned back to the stars. It is changing mine. For Ryan, those words were enough. He knew the road ahead would not be easy. She still carried scars, inside and out. But step by step, she was healing. And he was determined to help her every step of the way. That night, Alira fell asleep with the faintest smile on her lips, and Ryan realized something important. His kindness had not just changed her, it had changed him too. The ground shook again the next morning. Adam felt it as he stepped outside the shelter, a faint tremor running through his boots. He froze, his eyes sweeping across the barren land. Nothing moved on the surface. The glowing plants stood still, their soft light unchanged. Yet the soil beneath his feet seemed alive, as if something stirred far below. Myra was already outside, crouched low, her long fingers pressed against the earth. Her eyes glowed brighter than usual, sharp and alert. "They are moving," she said. Her voice was steady but carried weight. "They come closer." Adam swallowed hard. "What are they?" Her head tilted slightly. "I do not know. But life on a place like this does not waste energy. If it rises to feed." The words sent a chill through Adam. He tightened his grip on the crude tool he had shaped from metal scraps. It was nothing more than a sharp-edged rod, but it gave him some comfort. The tremors grew stronger throughout the day. Sometimes the ground cracked slightly, sending dust into the air. Adam tried to work on strengthening the shelter, but his hands shook. Myra moved like a shadow, scanning the cliffs and placing glowing plants in a circle around their small camp. "These plants carry vibrations," she explained when Adam asked. "If something crosses them, I will feel it." Night came, and with it, silence. Adam sat awake, staring into the dim light of the plants. He forced himself not to close his eyes. Hours passed slowly, each sound of shifting soil making his heart beat faster. Then it came. A sudden burst of movement shook the ground, and the glowing plants flickered as if reacting to a pulse beneath. Myra rose instantly, her body tense, her hands curled with sharp precision. The soil split open a short distance away, and from it crawled a creature unlike anything Adam had ever seen. Its body was long and segmented, like a worm, but covered in dark, hard plates. Thin legs spread from its sides, clicking against the ground as it pulled itself upward. Its head was a cluster of mandibles that opened and closed, releasing a high screech. Adam stepped back, his chest tight with fear. The creature was larger than he expected, nearly the size of the shuttle. Myra moved first. With a sudden burst of speed, she rushed toward the creature, her body glowing faintly under the pale light. She struck its side with a force that cracked part of its shell. The creature screeched again, twisting its long body to strike back. Adam shouted, but Myra did not slow. She moved with a rhythm that was both graceful and wild, her cycle giving her strength and speed beyond normal limits. Each time the creature lashed out, she slipped aside, her claws scraping its armored surface. Adam forced himself to move. He grabbed his metal rod and struck the creature's side. The blow was weak compared to Myra's, but it distracted the beast for a moment. Myra took the chance, leaping onto its back and driving her claws deep into its armor. The creature thrashed, then finally pulled itself back underground with a rumble, disappearing into the soil. Silence returned, but Adam's chest was heaving. His arms shook from both effort and fear. He turned to Myra, who stood tall, her glowing eyes fierce, her chest rising and falling quickly. "You saved us," Adam said, his voice low. Myra shook her head. "Not yet. That was only one. Others wait below." The thought made Adam's stomach twist. He looked at the soil, imagining more of those creatures hidden beneath. How many lived down there? How long before they rose again? For the next days, Myra remained restless, her cycle fueling her energy. She stayed awake through long hours, her senses tuned to every vibration. Adam noticed how sharp her instincts had become. She could predict where the ground would crack, guiding him away just before tremors grew strong. At the same time, he saw the toll it took on her. After bursts of movement, her body shook, and she grew pale under her shimmering skin. Each time, Adam stayed close, giving her water and speaking softly. One evening, when the ground trembled again, Adam crouched beside her. "We can't fight them forever. We need a way to keep them away." Myra's eyes focused on him, glowing faintly. "Humans build. You see tools where others see nothing. Find the way." Her words lit something inside Adam. He returned to the wreckage of the shuttle and studied the broken systems. The communication array was useless, but the energy cell still held a charge. If he could connect it to the metal panels, maybe he could create vibrations strong enough to push the creatures back. He worked late into the night, Myra beside him, guarding the shelter. When he finished, he placed the device into the soil. With a hum, it sent out a low vibration that spread across the ground. The glowing plants swayed faintly. The earth stilled. For the first time in days, the tremors faded. Adam let out a long breath, relief washing through him. Myra placed a hand on the ground, her eyes softening. "They do not like it? You have pushed them back." Adam smiled weakly. "Maybe now we'll get some rest." Myra looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "You turn fear into safety. That is what makes your kind different." That night, as Adam finally allowed himself to sleep, Myra kept her quiet watch. Her cycle still burned within her, but for the first time, she felt the weight of survival lighten. Together, human and alien had turned danger into defense. And though the hidden threat was not gone, hope had taken root. The days passed slowly, but Adam and Myra found a rhythm. The vibration device Adam built kept the underground creatures away for now. Each time the ground shook faintly, the machine sent its hum through the soil, and silence returned. Adam felt proud every time it worked. It was a reminder that even broken parts could become tools if used with human imagination. Myra often watched him as he worked. Her glowing eyes followed the way his hands moved across metal, fitting pieces together with patience. At times she tilted her head, almost as if studying something strange yet important. "You create balance with hands and mind," she told him one evening. "Where I use strength, you use thought. It is not the same, but it makes survival possible." Adam gave a small smile. "And where I can't fight, you can. We balance each other." Their partnership grew stronger with each passing day. Myra showed Adam how to sense vibrations in the ground by placing his palms flat against the soil. At first, Adam felt nothing, only the cold surface. But Myra guided him. "Close your eyes," she whispered. "Do not listen with ears. Listen with your bones." Adam tried again. Slowly, he began to notice faint tremors, a rhythm beneath the silence. It was not the creatures, but the natural movement of the moon itself. He opened his eyes in wonder. "I felt it," he said. Myra gave a slow nod. "You learn quickly. Humans adapt faster than most." The exchange gave Adam new confidence. He realized Myra was not only protecting him but also teaching him. Each lesson from her felt like a gift, a way to bridge the distance between two very different species. Still, the challenges of survival never left them. Food remained a concern. Adam managed to trap small insect-like creatures that lived near the glowing plants. They were not much, but Myra showed him how to roast them safely over heated stones. Together, they learned which plants gave energy and which caused sickness. Mistakes were made, but they always corrected them. One afternoon, Adam grew frustrated while trying to repair a broken panel to extend their shelter. The piece bent awkwardly, refusing to fit. He sighed heavily, his hands dropping to his sides. Myra stepped closer. You are angry. Just tired, Adam muttered. Everything we do feels like it takes too much. Myra studied him for a moment, then lifted the panel herself. With sudden strength, she bent it perfectly into shape and placed it where it belonged. She looked at him, her eyes glowing softly. Not everything is hard when two work as one, she said. Adam laughed lightly, the tension easing from his shoulders. I guess you're right. As night came, the pale sky filled with stars. Adam sat outside the shelter, staring upward. He thought of Earth, often the forests, the sound of rain, the simple comfort of home. But he also realized that if he had never left, he would not have understood what it meant to survive in this way. Myra joined him, sitting quietly at his side. For a while, neither spoke. Then she said, the cycle begins to calm. Soon the fire inside me will fade. Adam looked at her. Is that a good thing? It is balance returning, she explained. But I would not have endured it alone. Your presence carried me through. Adam felt a quiet warmth in his chest. And I wouldn't have lasted here without you. I'd have been lost on the first day. Myra tilted her head, studying him with that same quiet intensity. Strange, she whispered. I feared being trapped with a human during the cycle. But instead, I found strength in you. Her words stayed with Adam long into the night. He realized then that survival had changed them both. It was not only about food, water, and shelter. It was about trust. The next morning, Adam noticed how Myra's movements were calmer. Her glow had softened, her restlessness fading. The cycle was truly passing. She walked with steady steps, no longer trembling from sudden bursts of energy. Adam felt relief, but also respect. He had witnessed something few humans ever would, and he had been part of it. Later, while checking the vibration device, Adam frowned. The energy cell was weakening. Soon, it would no longer hold enough charge to keep the underground creatures away. He told Myra, and her expression grew serious. Then we must prepare for when they rise again. We cannot run. We must face them. Adam nodded slowly. Fear pressed at him, but he also felt a new determination. Together, they had already survived more than he thought possible. If danger returned, they would stand side by side. That night, as the cold wind swept across the barren land, Adam and Myra sat near the glowing plants. For the first time since they were stranded, Adam felt not just fear but hope. Myra looked at him and said softly, "You humans carry something unseen. It is not strength, not speed. It is the power to turn fear into trust. That is why I believe we will endure." Adam held her gaze, his heart steady. He realized she was right. Survival was no longer just a struggle. It had become a bond, human and alien, different yet united. The cycle had tested them both, and from it, a new strength had been born. The faint hum of the vibration device had grown weaker with every passing hour. Adam knew it was only a matter of time before it stopped working completely. He checked the energy cell again, hoping for a miracle, but the fading light on its surface told the truth. Myra noticed his silence. "It will fail soon," she said, her voice calm. Adam nodded. "Yes. When it does, the creatures will come again." Myra stood tall, her glowing eyes reflecting the pale light of the plants. "Then we meet them. But we will not fall. Together, we are stronger than before." Her words gave Adam courage. He had changed since the first day of being stranded. He was no longer the frightened human who stumbled in panic. Now he felt steady, knowing that even against impossible odds, he and Myra could face what was coming. The ground began to tremble that night. Small cracks split the soil as faint rumbling echoed through the cave. Adam gripped the makeshift spear he had built, while Myra lowered her stance, ready to defend. Then, through the tremors, another sound cut across the silence, a deep, distant hum that was not from the creatures. Adam froze, his eyes lifting to the sky. The sound grew louder, steady and mechanical. It was the unmistakable rhythm of engines. Myra raised her head too, her expression sharp. "A ship," she whispered. Adam's heart leaped. He ran outside, scanning the sky. At first, he saw nothing but the pale stars. Then, breaking through the thin clouds, lights appeared, small, blinking signals growing larger as a ship descended slowly toward the barren land. "Myra! It's them, it's rescue." The sight filled him with hope so strong that tears burned his eyes. But he quickly realized the creatures had also sensed the vibrations of the ship. The ground shook violently as dark shapes burst from below, their bodies twisting with hunger. Myra stepped forward, her energy returning in sharp waves. "Go to the landing site. I will hold them back." Adam shook his head. "Not without you." For a moment, they locked eyes. Then Myra gave a small nod. "Then we stand together." The creatures surged forward, their bodies scraping against stone. Adam thrust his spear at one, barely keeping it away, while Myra struck another with her glowing strength. The air filled with the clash of survival, but through the chaos, Adam saw the rescue ship touching down nearby. Its lights cut through the darkness like beacons. A ramp extended, and figures in suits rushed out, their voices echoing across the barren land. "Over here! Survivors!" Adam shouted, his voice raw. "Here! We're here!" The rescuers fired bright flares that drove the creatures back for a moment. Myra grabbed Adam's arm, and together they ran toward the ship. Every step felt heavy, but the thought of escape pushed them forward. At the base of the ramp, Adam stumbled, nearly falling. Myra pulled him up without hesitation. The rescuers reached them, pulling both inside the safety of the ship as the ramp closed behind. The moment the hatch sealed, silence filled the air. The creatures outside pounded briefly, then faded back into the soil as the engines roared to life. Adam collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. Relief washed over him in waves. He was alive. They both were. A rescuer's voice came through the helmet. "You're safe now. We'll take you home." Adam looked at Myra. Her glow had softened again, her expression unreadable. But when she met his gaze, she gave the smallest smile. During the flight, Adam stared out the window at the barren moon shrinking behind them. It looked so empty now, yet it had been a place of trial and discovery. He thought of the nights spent under glowing plants, the fear of tremors, the lessons Myra had taught him. All of it had shaped him into someone stronger. Myra sat quietly beside him, her long frame still, her eyes watching the stars. Adam broke the silence. "I wouldn't have made it without you." Myra turned her head slowly. "Nor I without you." Human and Ullery, trapped by chance, survived by choice. Her words stayed with Adam. He realized then that survival had not just been about living through danger. It had been about trust, about learning from each other, about finding strength where it was least expected. When the ship finally reached the main fleet, Adam stepped onto the docking bay, the familiar hum of human technology surrounding him again. Yet he felt different. The comforts of home no longer erased the memory of the barren moon. As Myra stepped beside him, the crew looked on with surprise and curiosity. But Adam stood tall, no longer seeing her as just an alien companion. She was his partner in survival, someone who had changed the way he saw the universe. Later, as the two were guided through the station corridors, Adam glanced at her and said quietly, "Whatever comes next, we face the worst together. That's something no one can take away." Myra's glowing eyes softened. "Yes. That bond will not break." And though the moon was far behind them, the memory of their shared struggle, their bond of survival, would remain forever.